Hello, beautiful people. I am excited to get you involved in lesson 3.3. Excuse me. I have my coffee ready to go, and I have my Miracle Worker book ready. We are going to knock this out. I promise you, if you watch this video all the way through, you will do an excellent job on your exit ticket. My friends who have been struggling with their exit tickets are my same friends who have not been paying attention to the video or who have not been watching the video at all. Okay, so you're going to need out your Miracle Worker book. You're going to need out a sheet of paper. I have mine right here. And you're going to need access to Microsoft Forms at the end. Okay, so those are the three things you need. If you don't have your Miracle Worker book, I attached the Miracle Worker as a PDF file. So not having your book is zero excuse for not doing the assignment. Okay, the page numbers are a little different, but you can totally still do it, and I can help you find the right page numbers if you need help. Okay, so here's the agenda for today. We're going to do our pre-reading and learn some new vocabulary. Sorry, my cat's eating something. We're going to, I'm going to model some things for you. I'm going to give you some feedback. I'm going to let you guys practice, and then we're going to go over the exit ticket. So like I said, as long as you watch this video 100% and write down the answers, that's why you have that paper there, you will do a really good job on your exit ticket. All right, so let's read our objectives. Students will be able to make inferences about characters based on plot and dialogue and stage directions. So those are some things that we have been struggling with a little bit, but you're going to do a great job because we're going to go over it together. And then number 2, students will be able to analyze the metaphor of the garden house. That will make more sense as we get further into the lesson. All right, so you have 2 options for the exit ticket today. You can either write down your answers on paper as we go, like I suggested, or if you have a laptop or a computer, you can open the Microsoft form in a new browser window, and you can actually pause the video and answer the questions as we go. The other option that I did not put on here is if you have the Teams app on your phone, you can actually watch the video on your phone and answer the form on your computer. So those are a couple of options. Either one is totally fine, right? It does not matter to me. So we're going to activate some prior knowledge. What do you think of when you think of a garden? So what are some of the words that you think of? I think of it's a lot of times green. It's really pretty. You can grow flowers. You can grow vegetables, right? These are some of the pictures that I searched up when I searched for garden. So you have, a really, really pretty garden with flowers. You have more of a vegetable garden. Here are some gardens, like tools, things you might need in a garden. Okay, what happens in a garden? What are the things that happen in a garden? You might be thinking some things like, that's where plants grow. That's where, basically that's it, right? You grow plants in a garden. Things start from seeds or from small plants, and then they get bigger over time. All right. And then what is the role of a gardener? So here are 3 pictures of a gardener. I want you to look at them really carefully. What are some of the things that a gardener does to help plants grow? So in the first picture, we see them picking weeds, right? So you've got to get rid of the stuff that doesn't belong in order to make room for the plants to grow. In the middle picture, you have a woman who's watering the plants, right? So you need to make sure the plants have nutrients. They have to have their water. And then finally, you need to harvest those plants at the end, right? So the gardener is the person who is making sure that plants have everything they need to be successful and grow. Now, a plant can grow without a gardener, but they're going to grow a lot faster and a lot healthier if there's a gardener there to facilitate that growth. All right, so in the scene that we are about to read together, there's a lot of talk about the garden house. Okay, this is actually a picture of the garden house that Helen Keller learned in. This is on her property that you can actually go visit in Alabama. So a lot of stuff happens in the garden house. And this garden house is a metaphor, right? And so what is a metaphor? Remember, a metaphor is when we're comparing two things that have nothing to do with each other, right? Like Helen is compared to a garden in this scene. So Helen is not a garden, right? But we can get some meaning from that, right? And so then we're going to talk about also, why is it meaningful that this scene takes place in a garden house? So we're going to see what happens in our reading today. But first, let's go over some words that we're going to need to know together. The first one is tolerate. Everyone say tolerate. To tolerate means to accept or put up with an action or behavior. So in our picture, we have this pigeon that's like, what's the opposite of tolerate? Refuse, reject, disallow, forbid, deny, right? All of these words are the opposite of tolerate. So if I tolerate something, I put up with it. So I cannot tolerate the smell of rotten food. It makes me sick to my stomach, right? What's something that you cannot tolerate the smell of? I'm curious to know. So the first word is tolerate. The second word is proposal. Proposal is a noun, and it's a plan or a suggestion, especially a formal or written one, put forward for consideration or discussion by others. Basically, it's if I propose something, I'm giving you an idea. So let me propose that you do your work on the day it comes out, and that way you don't have to worry about it for the rest of the week, right? I'm giving you that idea. We think of proposal a lot of times as in what you see in the picture, right? This person is making a proposal to, marry the woman. However, again, it's a suggestion. He's asking her, will you marry me? Right? It's a plan, it's a consideration. He can't just say, you are gonna marry me. He has to ask. So it's like asking for a plan, right? That's what proposal means. Recoil. Recoil is to pull away from something in disgust or fear. So I recoiled in fear when I saw a giant spider on my balcony, right? That's something that I really don't like spiders. I don't want to have to deal with that, right? So I recoiled when I saw the spider. In this picture, the man is recoiling from that giant shadow. So maybe you recoiled in a scary movie when like the loud music came on and like jumped out at you. That's something that gets me a lot too, right? So to recoil, to pull away in disgust or fear. Commence. Commence means to begin or to start. So Ms. Tolson, I commence my day with a cup of coffee every day. I go out, I sit on the porch, my cat comes with me, I drink my coffee out there, and that's how I start my day. How do you guys start your day? Some of you probably get up and brush your teeth. Some of you probably get up and check your phone, right? There's a lot of different ways that you can start your day or commence your day. Surrender. Surrender means to give up and accept something that you don't like. So a symbol for surrender is the white flag, and you'll see this in books and movies sometimes. Someone will like wave the white flag of surrender in war. So that's why I put the picture of that. But our sentence says, I finally surrendered to my mom's request and made my bed. Or I finally surrendered to my mom's request and cleaned my room. That's something that I used to have to surrender to when I was y'all's age. So what's something that you finally gave up? You may not like cleaning your room, but you did it anyway. You surrendered. All right, so why, this is a review of what we've already read. Why does Annie propose? Remember, that's one of our words. Propose means to suggest an idea. So why does Annie propose living somewhere else with Helen? What is the purpose of that? Who are the people that spoil Helen the most, right? It's her mom and her dad. If they're always there, Helen's never going to learn, right? So Annie's idea is like, let me live with her. Let me provide everything for her. That way she has to learn from me. She can't recoil from me, right? There's another one of our words. She can't jump away from me and go to you guys. And then what is the character's attitude towards Annie's proposal? We're going to find that out. So we're going to look at how the different characters react to her proposal. Okay, so we are actually going to begin on page 70 at the top. And I went ahead and I put the page numbers in here, and I took pictures of the pages. So you can actually read along on here if you don't have your book. If you do have your book, it's probably going to be easier to see in your book. However, you do not have to have your book to be successful, right? Where else can you get a copy of the book if you don't have your hard copy? That's right, you can get it in the files section of your Teams page for my class. It's called the Miracle Worker PDF. If you need help on where to find it, I will gladly help you, right? I want you to have access to the book. All right, so I'm opening my book to page 70. I'm going to read it. We're going to pause. We're going to talk about some stuff as we go. Write down any answers to questions because I bet you're going to see those again. Okay. Is that all? That's all. Captain. Keller turns his head and Kate's request is quiet but firm. With your permission. So Kate is looking at Captain Keller and being like, can we please do this? Because it's going to be the best for our kid. I want control of it. Why? It's a way to reach her. You intend to starve her into letting you touch her? She won't starve, she'll learn. All's fair in love and war, Captain Keller. You never cut supplies? This is hardly a war. Well, it's not love. A siege is a siege. Miss Sullivan, do you like the child? Do you? So here we have Annie and Keller arguing, right? And she's like, do you even like your kid? Like, you're not doing what's best for her. You could have a servant here. I'll have enough work without looking after a servant. But that boy Percy could sleep here, run errands. We can let Percy sleep here, I think, Captain. And some old furniture, all our own. Captain, do you think the walnut bedstead in the barn would be too... I have not consented to Percy, or the house, or to the proposal, or to Miss Sullivan staying on when I... But he erupts in an irate surrender. So here he surrenders. And what does surrender mean? Give up to something. So he gives up. He's like, fine, you can do what you want. You can stay here. And then he erupts. What is something that erupts? A volcano. So he's still pretty mad, but he's like, all right, fine, whatever. Very well, I consent to everything. He shakes the cigar at Annie. For 2 weeks. I'll give you 2 weeks in this place. And it will be a miracle if you get the child to tolerate you. And what does tolerate mean? Tolerate means to put up with, right? So right now, does Helen tolerate Annie? No, she does not tolerate her. She does not like her. Keller marches out, slams the door. Kate, on her feet, regards Annie, who is facing the door. You can't think as little of love as you said, or you wouldn't stay. Annie glances questioningly. I didn't come here for love. I came for money. Kate shakes her head to this with a smile. After a moment, she extends her open hand. Annie looks at it, but when she puts hers out, it's not to shake, but to set her fist in Kate's palm. A. It's the first of many, 26. Kate squeezes her fist, squeezes it hard, and hastens out after Keller. Annie stands as the door closes behind her, her manner so apprehensive that she finally slaps her brow, holds it tight with her eyes closed, crosses herself for luck. The lights dim into a cool silhouette scene around her, the lamp paling out, and now in a formal entrances, persons appear around Annie with furniture for the room. Okay, so as we go onto this page, what I want you to pay attention to is what are the servants doing? So we're going to see that in this paragraph right here and this one right here, okay? So as I read these two paragraphs of stage directions, if I were you, I would take my paper and my pencil or pen, and I'm just going to write down the things that I see the servants doing, the actions that they're taking, okay? The lights dim into a cool silhouette scene around her, the lamp paling out, and now, in a formal entrances, persons appear around Annie with furniture for the room. Percy crosses the stage with a rocking chair and waits. Martha, from another direction, bears in a stool. Bears means to carry in. Viney bears in a small table, and the other Negro servant rolls in a bed partway from the left. And Annie, opening her eyes to put her glasses back on, sees them. She turns around in the room once and goes into action, pointing out the locations for each article. The servants place them and leave, and Annie then darts around, interchanging them. In the midst of this, while Percy and Martha reappear with a tray of food and a chair respectively, James comes down from the house with Annie's suitcase and stands viewing the room and her quizzically. Annie halts or stops abruptly under his eyes, embarrassed, and then seizes the suitcase from his hand, explaining herself brightly. I've always wanted to live in a doll's house. She sets the suitcase out of the way and continues. Viney, at left, appears to position a rod with drapes for the doorway. Another servant, at center, pushes in a wheelbarrow loaded with a couple of boxes of Helen's toys and clothes. Annie helps lift them into the room, and the servants pushes the wheelbarrow off. In none of this is any heed taken of the imaginary walls of the garden house. The furniture is moved in from every side, and it defines the walls. Annie now drags the box of toys into the center, props up the doll conspicuously on top. With the people melted away except for James, all is still again. The lights turn again without pause. All right, so what are the servants doing? Okay, they're bringing in furniture. They are helping Annie. She's telling them where to put stuff. She's rearranging their furniture, right? So what I want you to do is we're going to look for some of those verbs or some of those action words in those two paragraphs. So I'm going to give you one. In your answer, you're going to give me at least 3 or 4, okay? So if I give you 1 and you type in 1 for your answer, you will not get points for that. You have to type in at least 3. One of the ones I give you can be one of your 3, but you've got to type and find 2 of your own. Okay, so if I'm looking at the top of this paragraph, let me get my pen. We're going to write in black. So Martha bears in a stool, and we said that bears means carries. So the word bears is one of those verbs. So I used bears. Remember we said she's carrying it in. You can use bears, but you got to come up with 2 more action words of what the servants are doing on this page. Okay? Okay, I'm going to start at the bottom of page 72, and then we're going on to 73. On 73, we're going to be looking for James's attitude or his feelings about Helen. And we're going to be looking for evidence that says that, okay? So as we read on the bottom of 72 and all of 73, I want you to pay attention to that. Don't you let go of things. Sorry, let me start over. James is talking. You don't let go of things easily, do you? How will you win her hand now in this place? Do I know? I lost my temper, and here we are. No touching, no teaching, of course. You are bigger. I'm not counting on force. I'm counting on her. That little imp is dying to know. To know what? Anything. Any and every crumb in God's creation. I'll have to use that appetite too. She gives the room a final survey or look, straightens the bed, arranges the curtains. Maybe she'll teach you. Of course. That she isn't. That there's such a thing as dullness of heart, acceptance, and letting go. Sooner or later, we all give up, don't we? Maybe you all do. It's my idea of original sin. What is? Giving up. You won't open her. Why can't you let her be? Have some pity on her for being what she is. If I ever once thought like that, I'd be dead. You will be. Why trouble? Annie turns to glare at him. He is mocking. Or will you teach me? And with a bow, he drifts off. Okay. So, his attitude towards Helen, right? His feelings about Helen. We really see that through here. James basically says, just accept and let go that Helen is dull. You're never going to get to her, right? Just give up. You're never going to reach her. You're never going to be able to teach her anything. Now, think about that. As a teacher, if I had a student, I've had lots of students, right, in my 12 years of teaching. Some of them have been really, really, really smart. Some have really struggled. But never, never, never have I just been like, all right, I give up on you. You can't do it. Why would I do that as a teacher? I'm never going to give up on a kid. But James is saying you should just give up on Helen. Helen can't do it. Helen's not smart enough. So, we know his attitude. We just talked about that, right? So you need to give me a feeling word. And then for the text evidence, you're going to give me something that he says, one thing he says that shows us his feelings about Helen. Okay? You can totally do this. And if you're like still stuck, you need to send me a message in Skype, or not Skype, in Teams, or you need to come to office hours and we can do it together, right? We can do this whole thing together and I'll make sure you get every single answer right. Okay, we're going to start at the bottom of 73 and then move on to the top of 74. Now in the distance there comes the clopping of hooves drawing near, and nearer up to the door, and they halt. Annie wheels to face the door. When it opens this time, the Kellers, Kate in a traveling bonnet, Keller also halted, are standing there with Helen between them. She's in a cloak. Kate gently cues her into the room. Helen comes in, groping, baffled but interested in all the new surroundings. Annie evades her or escapes from her, exploring hand, her gaze not leaving the child. Does she know where she is? Kate. We rode her out in the country for 2 hours. For all she knows, she could be in another town. Helen stumbles over the box on the floor and then discovers the doll and the other battered toys, is pleased, sits to them, and becomes puzzled and suddenly very wary. Wary means like cautious. She scrambles up and back to her mother's thighs, but Annie steps in, and it is hers that Helen embraces. Helen recoils, gropes, and touches her cheek instantly. What does recoils mean? Okay, so how does Helen react when her parents take her into the garden house? So we're going to find that answer right here in this paragraph that I just read. So she's looking around at stuff, right? She's curious, all of those things. That's her sign for me, I know. Helen waits and then recommences her groping more urgently. Kate stands indecisive and takes an abrupt step towards her, but Annie's hand is a barrier. In 2 weeks. Miss Annie, please be good to her. These 2 weeks, try to be very good to her. I will. Kate, turning, then hurries out. The Kellers cross back of the main house. Annie closes the door. Helen starts at the door jar and rushes it. Annie holds her off. Helen kicks her, breaks free, and careens around the room like an imprisoned bird, colliding with the furniture, groping wildly, repeatedly touching her cheek in a growing panic. When she has covered the room, she communicates her weird screaming. Annie moves to comfort her, but her touch sends Helen's into a paroxysm of rage. She tears away and falls over her box of toys, flings the box to, reels her feet, rips the curtains from the windows, bangs and kicks at the door, sweeps objects off the mantelpiece and shelf like a little tornado incarnate, all destruction until she comes upon her doll, and in the act of hurling it, freezes. She clutches it to herself, and in exhaustion sinks sobbing to the floor. Annie stands, contemplating her in some awe. So you're going to use one of the vocabulary words that we learned in your answer. You have to use your vocab word in the answer. I'm not telling you which one. If you're not sure, you need to go back. So on page 74, how does Helen react when Annie tries to touch her hand, right? So that is going to be in that bottom paragraph, okay? So I'm not telling you exactly the right answer, but I'm telling you where to find the answer, okay? So that's a pretty good deal if you ask me. Okay. We don't have any questions for these 3 pages, but they're very important to be understanding the next few pages. So make sure that you read along with this. So this is pages 75, 76, and 77. 2 weeks. She shakes her head, and not without a touch of disgusted bewilderment. What did I get into now? The lights have been dimming throughout, and the garden house is lit only by the moonlight now, with Annie lost in patches of dark. Kate, now hatless and coatless, enters the family room by the rear door, carrying a lamp. Keller, also hatless, wanders simultaneously around the back of the main house where James has been waiting in the rising moonlight on the porch. I can't understand it. I had every intention of dismissing that girl, not setting her up like an empress. Yes, what's her secret, sir? Secret? That enables her to get anything she wants out of you when I can't. James turns to go into the house, but Keller grasps his wrist, twisting him half to his knees. Kate comes from the porch. She does not get anything, she... Don't, Captain! He's afraid. He throws James away from him with contempt. Man, that's intense. What does he want out of me? My God, don't you know? He gazes from Keller to Kate. Everything you forgot when you forgot my mother. What? James wheels into the house. Keller takes a stride to the porch to roar after him. One thing that girl's secret is not, she doesn't fire one shot and disappear. Kate stands rigid and Keller comes back for her. Katie, don't mind what he... Captain, I'm proud of you. For what? For letting this little girl have what she needs. Why can't my son be? He can't bear me. You'd think I'd treat him as hard as this girl does Helen. He breaks off as it dawns on him. Perhaps you do. But he has to learn some respect. Do you like the child? She turns again to the porch, but pauses, reluctant. How empty the house is tonight. Alright, so on this page we have James, and we kind of see why he has such a stinky attitude, right? His dad's really mean to him, and he's like, you forgot my mom and married this other woman, and you never even talk about her, and, right, we can see some of his pain. We can see some of the difficulties that James has gone through. Now, that's not an excuse for being an absolute jerk, which he is. But we can understand his character a little more. And Keller is saying, like, well, heck, I'm not as mean to him as Annie is to Helen. And Kate's like, well, maybe you kind of are in your own way. And so he's starting to, like, realize some things. After a moment, she continues on. Keller stands moveless as the moonlight dies on him. The distant belfry chimes toll 2 o'clock, and with them, a moment later, comes the voice on the wind in a whisper. Alright, so this is where we're going into a flashback. Annie! Annie! In her patch of dark, Annie, now in her nightgown, hurls a cup into the corner as though it were her grief, getting rid of its taste through her teeth. No, no pity, I won't have it. She comes to Helen, prone on the floor, on either of us. She goes to her knees, so we're back in the present now. But when she touches Helen's hand, the child starts up awake, recoils, and scrambles away from her under the bed. Annie stares after her. She strikes her palm on the floor with passion. I will touch you. She gets to her feet and paces in a kind of anger around the bed, her hand in her hair, confronting Helen at each turn. How do I? Annie stops. Then she calls out urgently, loudly, Percy! Percy! She moves swiftly to the drapes at the left. Percy, wake up! Percy's voice comes in a thick, sleepy mumble, unintelligible. Get out of bed and come in here. I need you. Annie darts away, finds and strikes a match, and touches it to the hanging lamps. The lights come up dimly in the room, and Percy stands, bare to the waist, so basically he's not wearing a shirt, in torn overalls between the drapes, with eyes closed, swaying. Annie goes to him and pats his cheek vigorously. Percy, you awake? No, ma'am. How would you like to play a nice game? What? With Helen. She's under the bed. Touch her hand. She kneels Percy down at the bed, thrusting his hand under it to contact Helen's. Helen emits an animal sound and crawls to the opposite side, but commences sniffing. Annie rounds the bed with Percy and thrusts his hand at Helen again. This time Helen clutches it, sniffs it in recognition, and comes scrambling out after Percy to hug him with delight. Percy, alarmed, struggles, and Helen's fingers go to his mouth. Let me go, let me go. Helen fingers her own lips, and as before, moving them in a dumb imitation. So she's like patting at his mouth. She's trying to talk. She gonna hit me. She can talk. If she only knew, I'll show you how. She makes the letters. She opens Percy's hand and spells into it. This one is C. C. She hits the palm with a couple times, so she's spelling it into his hand. Helen gropes to feel what Percy's hand is doing, and when she encounters Annie's, she falls back from them. She's mad at me now, though she won't play, but she knows lots of letters. Here's another. A. C. A. C. A. But she's watching Helen, who comes groping, consumed with curiosity. Annie makes the letters in Percy's hand. Oops. She makes the letters in Percy's hand, and Helen pokes to question what they are up to. Helen snatches Percy's other hand and quickly spells 4 letters into it. Annie follows them aloud. C-A-K-E. She spells cake. She gets cake. She is swiftly over to the tray of food to fetch cake and a jug of milk. She doesn't know it, yet it means this. Isn't it funny? She knows how to spell it and she doesn't know she knows. She breaks the cake into 2 pieces and extends one to each. Helen rolls away from her offer. Well, if you won't play it with me, I'll play it with you. Would you like to learn one she doesn't know? No, ma'am. But Annie seizes his wrist and lets him and spells to him. M-I-L-K. M is this. I. That's an easy one. Just lift your little finger. L is this. And Helen comes back with her hand to feel the new word. Annie brushes her away and continues spelling aloud to Percy. Helen's hand comes back again and she tries to get in. So how is Helen feeling here? She wants to play now that Percy's playing, right? It's like when you're playing with something, like maybe you're playing video games and then your brother comes up and is like, but I wanted to play first. Well, he didn't care about playing until you started playing, right? So how is that, what word is that, right? She's feeling jealous. Helen is jealous of Percy. Annie brushes it away again, and Helen's hands insist, and Annie puts it away rudely. No, why should I talk to you? I'm teaching Percy a new word. L, and then K is like this. Helen now yanks their hands apart. She butts Percy away and thrusts her palm out insistently. Sorry. Annie's eyes are bright with glee. Oh, you're jealous, are you? Helen's hand waits, intractably waits. All right. Annie spells into it, milk. M-I-L-K. And Helen, after a moment, spells it back to Annie. Annie takes her hand with her whole face shining. She gives a great sigh. Good. So I'm finally back to where I can touch you, Touch and go. No love lost, but here we go. She puts a jug of milk into Helen's hand and squeezes Percy's shoulder. You can go to bed now. You've earned your sleep. Thank you. Percy, stumbling, weaves his way through the drapes. Helen finishes drinking and holds the jug out for Annie. When Annie takes it, Helen crawls onto the bed and makes for sleep. Annie stands to look down at her. Now all I have to teach you is one word. Everything. She sets the jug down on the floor, and Annie spies the doll, stoops to pick it up, and with it dangling in her hand, turns off the lamp. A shaft of moonlight is left on Helen in the bed, a second shaft on the rocking chair, and Annie, after putting off her smoked glasses, sits in the rocker with the doll. She is rather happy and dangles the doll on her knee, and it makes the mama sound. Annie whispers into the mock solitude. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. She lays it against her shoulder and begins rocking with it, patting its diminutive behind. She talks the lullaby to it, humorously at first. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird, if that mockingbird don't sing. The rhythm of the rocking takes her into the tune, softly and more tenderly. Mama's gonna buy you a diamond ring, if that diamond ring turns to brass. A third shaft of moonlight outside now rises to pick out James at the main house, with one foot on the porch step. He turns his body as if hearing the song. Mama's gonna buy you a looking glass, if that looking glass gets broke. A looking glass is like a mirror. In the family room, a fourth shaft picks out Keller seated at the table. In thought, he too lifts his head as if hearing. Mama's gonna buy you a billy goat, and if that billy goat won't pull. The fifth shaft is upstairs in Annie's room, and picks out Kate, pacing there. She halts, turning her head too, as if hearing. Mama's gonna buy you a cart and bull, if that cart and bull turns over. Mama's gonna buy you a dog named Rover, if that dog named Rover won't bark. With a shaft of the moonlight on Helen and James and Keller and Kate all moveless, and Annie rocking the doll, the curtain ends the act. All right. Sorry, I forgot to turn the page, but I just read these to you. This is where she's singing the song, and this is where she finally teaches her the word milk. All right, so the last part of your exit ticket is going to be a because but so. Now we struggled with the last because but so I'm going to remind you. Helen is like a garden because. And what did we say happens in a garden? Things grow, right? And we talk about growth all the time in my class. You've grown so much. What do I mean when I say that as a teacher? I mean you have learned so much. So Helen is like a garden because, so you need to give me a reason. Helen is like a garden, but, so we know she's learned so much, but there's something wrong there, right? So but is like the opposite. So Helen is like a garden. She's learned so much, but what does she still have to do, right? And then Helen is like a garden, so this is like what's going to come next. So Annie, right, I'm giving you a first word that you could use. All right, so you're going to finish the sentence. All right, guys, that's it. You guys did a great job today. If you have watched to this point, I am super proud of you. And just know that I know you will do a good job. If you still need help with any of the questions, send me a message in chat, or you can come to office hours from 12 to 1 on video. I helped several of you today, and you did a great job. All right, as always, I love you. Be good. Have a wonderful day.